Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming in for this session. My name is Ben Carter, as I hope you'll be able to see on screen if GoToWebinar is doing what it is supposed to. So I'm one of the careers consultants. If you are part of the Science of Faculty and Engineering, you may have seen me before. If you haven't, do not worry. That is not important for today, as we are talking about the wonder that is LinkedIn. I've got a few different things I want to go through in the space of an hour, hopefully get done inside of that hour. But what I'm going to do is tackle 3 different areas, and I'll be stopping after each of them just to see if anybody's got questions they want to put into the chat, just to give just try and give you guys a chance to get some of your questions answered about this, as well as just me talking at you for a little bit. First up, I guess I want to make sure that you're aware of what's out there. Now, if you do want to come back to any of this kind of material, there is obviously stuff to read. If you want to go through to the Careers Service website, that is www.manchester.ac.uk/careers, then you'll find our section there on what is LinkedIn and why is it useful to you. So much of what I'm going to tell you today, you can find in different parts of this section, but it's just there in case you want a reference for any of this. The slides themselves we'll be looking to make available on YouTube, and there's actually videos up already covering some of what I'm going to tell you, but hopefully going to condense it all into one neat package. With me, by the way, is Lewis Howells, who is one of the organizers of the SEI program, and he'll be jumping in at the end just to tell you maybe what's going to be happening next, different skill sessions which may be popping up, or other things you guys need to know. First up, I guess LinkedIn itself as a resource, I guess I want you to have a sense of, what is it and what can it be used for. But first, I kind of need to know, what stage are you guys at? And to that end, I have a simple question for you, which is, what level do you feel you're at with LinkedIn? And I wondered if you could maybe each throw something into the chat here for me, just a number to say what do you feel your current level of proficiency is with LinkedIn. And that is to say, either 1, you're completely new, maybe you don't even have a profile. 2, you've got a profile, or you're just maybe new to the system as a whole, and maybe got a profile but maybe never used it. That's probably one of the most common responses I get when I talk to people about LinkedIn. Or maybe 3, you're already active, you may be doing a few things with it, but you'd like to know a bit more about how you use it. So please, just a 1, 2, or 3 in the chat box there would be incredibly helpful. And let me know roughly where you're at. Here we go. We've got, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Let me just expand this a bit. So we've got a spread. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people tagging themselves at kind of stage 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people at stage 2. Does that mean we've got maybe a couple of people who haven't answered yet? Because only a couple of people who feel that they're at stage 3. So those of you who are stages 1 and 2, the first 2 sections I'm going to get into are the profile itself, what it can look like. Apologies to people who are at stage 3 who feel like they've maybe heard this stuff before, but it's important to get the basics down and what a profile should look like. But I'll deal with the profile, the different sections, what you can put into it, what you should maybe avoid putting into it. I will get then on to connections and the tricky business of how you approach strangers to ask them for favors. After that, I'll introduce you to some of the different tools that are on there, where you can find them and what you can do with them. And I'm thinking here of things like the Alumni Tool. I'm thinking of things like you just simply using the newsfeed and posting your updates to people. And also things like joining groups and what that can mean for you, what you can do with it. So with that in mind, thank you all for doing that. And let me just get rid of that. So then, onto LinkedIn itself, and what is it for? And I guess the nature of the network, it's a lot of people refer to it as professional Facebook. So it is it's a social media platform, but it is a professional social media platform. So everything you do on there should have some element of your professional interests, whereas Facebook and other Instagram and the like are very much geared towards just letting people know where you're at socially. So LinkedIn, there is an expectation that everything you do with it is going to reflect on you in some way professionally. So you do have to be slightly more cautious about what you present on there. In terms of what can you do with it, I think it has very broad applications. Some people use it purely as a means to find work. You can use it as a job search tool. It has just as good a job search function as GradCracker or Target Jobs or any of the others that are out there. I think it can be more powerful than that, though, because it gives you an insight into people who are maybe like you, people who are maybe completely unlike you professionally, and what they have done with their professional lives. Is it somewhat like cyber stalking? Well, yes, it is to an extent. I read a very interesting post from a recruiter just a couple of days ago, saying that when they are looking at potential candidates, they go through their LinkedIn activity to see what kind of things are they commenting and how do they present themselves. So yeah, it does become important. And if you think more broadly than that, strictly speaking, if an interviewer is being objective, they shouldn't really go looking for you online, but they will. In all likelihood, curiosity will get the better of them. And once you've been invited to an interview, there's a very good chance the interviewers are going to Google you or use whatever search engine they feel is fit. But your LinkedIn profile is one of the things that is going to come to the top of that search. And yeah, it can, if you don't have a profile, then fine, they don't have anything to go on. If, however, your profile is out of date, then that first impression you can create with people, it starts to waver a bit, and you don't want to get worried about you before they've even met you. So I think there are some simple things you can do to try and mitigate that. And we're going to get into some of that just now. So I'm going to come out of this, and hopefully you should now all be looking at LinkedIn itself. And when you first land on this, you'll start to see your things like your news feed, updates from groups you may have joined, and other things like just news items which are coming through, and also options to start posting. So let's come out of that. What can you do from here? Well, we'll get to that. I think how you use the news feed is, I think there's a lot you can do with it, but let's start with the basics. And I want to start with profiles and how they should be put together. And to do that, I'm going to take you to my profile. Now I'm going to take off my camera at this point. Now, I mentioned their first impressions, and I think that when you first land on somebody's profile, there are certain things, that the very first things they will see about you are presented here. And they are the images you choose to share and the words you choose to describe yourself. Before we even get into the profile itself, there are certain things that people will see. And in fact, I may be getting a little bit ahead of myself. Even before they've got to your profile, let's just do a quick, here we go. When you look for somebody, and you want to get a sense of, okay, am I looking at the right person? Then when you find somebody in a set of search results like this, and let's just take it a stage further, then here is perhaps the first place they will find you, is in a list of results like this. And so your image, your name, and the headline which you choose to share, these are all things which you can adjust to some extent or other. Now, your name obviously is a little bit less easy to flex, but the other items, your photo and your headline, those are quite powerful things, and what they say about you, you have a lot of control over. So let's go back to my profile and I guess a sense of what it says about me. So images, first of all. Now you've got your photo itself, one of the first things people are going to see about you, and your backdrop image here. Now, your photo, there is a lot of variation. As you look through LinkedIn, you're going to find a lot of different takes on what a profile photo should look like. And I think there are a lot of potential pitfalls with this as well. In an ideal situation, again, your watchword should always be professional. You want something which people are going to look at and think, yes, that is a professional looking person. They're presenting themselves well. They want to be seen as a fellow professional here on LinkedIn. Now, what are some of the pitfalls? If you just do a quick Google search for worst LinkedIn photo ever, you will find some great articles on this. And I suppose to pull a few examples from that, and things I have seen people doing with their photos, it's things like wearing sunglasses, trying to blocking out half your face with some kind of covering or other. This can include hats, by the way, and various other things, hoods. Other examples, images where people are off in the distance somewhere, not far away, but just far enough away that you've got maybe a full body shot rather than a headshot, and so it doesn't really say much about you as an individual. Now, the figures which are bandied around LinkedIn change somewhat year on year, but it's said that people are 14 times as likely to click on your profile if it has a photo on it, if it has a profile photo. So getting it right is important. Other things you can get wrong are action shots, you doing sports, giving a talk, things like this. With a pet, with another person. I've seen enough LinkedIn photos of more than one person in the photo, and I can guess at who's who, but don't let people guess. You want something where you've got an image people can easily say, okay, yeah, that is you. If I was to meet you, I'd have a reasonable chance of knowing that I've found the right person. And to that end, you do want a headshot. You want something where your face is filling 70 to 80% of the frame. And lighting matters. There is a school of thought which says do not take a selfie. It's got to be said, I did not subscribe to this school of thought because my current profile photo is a selfie. It took a little while to get the angle right, and I think if you kind of look at the set of my shoulders, you can sort of tell it's me taking the photo, but I think it more or less works. But you can do this very easily yourself. You'll see articles, you'll hear opinions that say, yeah, get a professional shot, make sure you're wearing a suit and all this stuff. I don't think you have to go that far necessarily. I think that you can still create a good, professional, smart-looking shot yourself, or with just the help of one other person, and a fairly neutral background. That is one easy pitfall to avoid, is find a blank wall. Find something where you've got a reasonably high contrast between yourself and the background, and go with it. Lighting, whether it's coming from, where it's coming from rather, does make a big difference. And being backlit is a major pitfall, so try and avoid that. But yeah, once you've got that right, got the focus right, you can crop most any photo that you take in order to make sure it's filling enough of the frame. You just got to make sure that the resolution doesn't suffer, it doesn't go blurry or pixelated in the process. So that's enough on your photo. The backdrop photo, again, can say a lot about you. I've got this image here of Saturn from the Cassini probe because I love it. I think it's a great reflection on human endeavor. Again, examples I've seen, there have been things like inspirational quotes. I don't mind those. I think it's useful maybe to have something which isn't too eye-catching because you want people to keep scrolling. But something which says something about you, your professional interests, these are all good. Try to avoid something which is pulled together from lots of different images. I've seen some collage backdrops, which for me, I think there is danger in this because there's too much chance that one or more of your images don't really gel well together. Maybe the resolution doesn't quite fit, and how you put them together in Photoshop or in PowerPoint, however you choose to do it, it might not translate well to how it appears in LinkedIn. So be somewhat careful, but I think it's worth having one. So then we start to move through the sections, and yeah, so your name, the headline here, you've got control over all of these things, and when you're in your profile, you've got the option to adjust things like, obviously, how you appear to people. Your headline here, LinkedIn will supply this for you when you first generate a profile. It will most likely say student at the University of Manchester, and you can leave it at that if you want, but I think that depending on what you're looking for, the stage in your degree that you're at, you might want to go a stage further. You could say such things as, final year biochemistry student at the University of Manchester. You could say such things as final year biochemist seeking roles in X. You don't even have to mention Manchester at this point. It depends a little bit on what you want to communicate to people, but don't discard it. Don't leave this off, or maybe don't leave it untouched, because what it says about you, like I said, it's one of those very first things people see from a list of search results. What else have we got in here? We've got things like locations, the industry that you're in. These are things that people won't necessarily see. You can also add such things as contact details here. So don't feel like you need to just rely on your LinkedIn profile. You can, of course, provide links to other websites. If you want people to see your GitHub page or your photography portfolio, whatever it might be, and that's things you can present here in the top section. One other thing before I move on from the very top here, that is you have an option here to edit your the URL, so the address of your profile. Now that is to say that you can customize how people will see your web address on LinkedIn. I've already done this. I've changed mine to Ben Carter Careers. Now obviously you're a bit limited by how many other people there are with your name on LinkedIn, but again, as a means to make your profile just a little bit more personal, and also if you want to use it, if you want to add it to things like your CV, for example, then you can tweak this to suit your purposes. Make it something that's a little bit easier than just a string of letters and numbers. Okay, let's whip through the sections. What will people see? In the order they appear in the profile, the first thing they're going to see is about. So about you. And this has changed names over time. It used to be called the summary section, but this gives you the opportunity to lay out your stall, to let people know where you are, what you're looking for, maybe what you've got to offer. Now, when they first see this, they're only going to see the first 3 lines. So how you present yourself is rather important within, well, not even 3 lines, maybe 2.5. If you can do some of the heavy lifting within those 2.5 lines, then it'll allow people just to get a snapshot of you beyond even the headline you've got up the top there. So again, ask yourself, what do I most want people to know about me? Now, that can obviously be the stage you're at with your studies, and perhaps what you feel you've got to offer them, what your best skills are. That's fairly straightforward. Now, the bit about what are you looking for, that's slightly trickier, because one of the big I suppose one of the blessings and curses of LinkedIn is that everybody sees it. Now, it's great to have that public profile, and it's great for people to be able to find you. But at the same time, if you've got different sectors that you are interested in, if you're just going to apply to them, apply for jobs in those sectors with a CV, then you can obviously tailor your CV each time you send it out, and I thoroughly recommend you do so. Here on LinkedIn, you're more limited in that while you can change this document whenever you like, as opposed to your CV, which will only really change when you send it to someone. So this is very dynamic, it's very mutable, but at the same time, it can sit for long periods without you noticing that it says certain things about you. So you might say, I'm looking for roles in sector X, but of course, professionals from sector Y are going to come and take a look at this. So you may want to be slightly broader than just a single sector. Depending on what your career aspirations are, you might want to lay out a few different options that you're prepared to consider, so that people don't look at it and think, yeah, sorry, you're not after the thing that I'm offering. One final thing up here, which is amongst the different profile sections you get here within the intro, you get this option for looking for a new job. And this is a relatively recent feature on LinkedIn. And if you are actively looking for roles right now, I do recommend that you activate this because it allows you to just be a bit more visible to recruiters who use LinkedIn, and they do. You may have already heard from friends, colleagues about stories of people getting recruited directly through LinkedIn. Those are entirely true. I know many people who've been approached this way, and plenty of people who have accepted jobs simply through an approach on LinkedIn. So it is a true thing, it does happen, and you can make that easier by activating that section to say that you're looking for roles right now. So then, on to the other sections. The next one you get to is experience. Now, unlike, again, your CV, where you maybe get a chance to name the sections as you see fit, here you don't really get the chance to do that. You have one experience section on LinkedIn, and you have to work with it to the best of your ability. The formatting on LinkedIn is quite draconian. It doesn't let you move the sections around anymore, and it will order the material in this section based purely on the dates that you present. Now, one slight flex in that is that anything that you say is up until the present, like my current role here, that will always rise to the top of the experience section. So what I'd recommend you do is ask yourself, once again, what do you want people to see? What's some of the best material that you want people to be aware of here? I've just seen a question in the chat here about, could a pet or animal background be suitable if someone identifies as an animal lover? Potentially. I would still probably say that there's probably better places to post those sorts of photos than as part of your LinkedIn profile. Now, I suppose, yeah, if you're looking to actually go into a zoology-related profession, then there are probably good reasons to do that. But overall, I'd still say that it needs to be you primarily within the photo. Your backdrop photo, you've got a little bit more flexibility with. Coming back to the experience section, be brief with it, just as you would be when writing a CV. Use bullet points. A small tip for drafting stuff in LinkedIn: when you come to do this, you won't necessarily have the option to add bullet points themselves, at least not in the way you might expect. So what I'd suggest is draft your material here in Word or some other processing material, and copy that text and paste it into LinkedIn, and it will bring the bullet points with it. So you can get around some of the limitations of this system, some of the formatting limitations, simply by using another means of drafting your material. Another question has just popped in. Would it be okay not to have a backdrop photo? Yeah, I think you can get away with having no backdrop photo a lot more than you can get away with having no profile photo. So yes, I don't think you have to have one. I think, again, it can say something about you, but yeah, you can probably get away without having one of those if necessary. So experience, be selective. Be selective about what you include here. This can be your academic material. You can choose project stuff to go in here, as well as your professional experience. If you've got internships, obviously your SEI stuff you're doing right now, then please make sure that goes in. But you can put in whatever you need to in this section to make sure it gets noticed. Now, there are other sections which you can insert. There are things for volunteering, things for causes which you support. And you might ask yourself, okay, what's the best way I can maybe I can assign my experiences to some of these other sections so that they still appear in my profile, but that my actual experience section, the one which people will see immediately after my about section, that will then, I guess, present my best material. Okay. Moving on, education, this will be done for you. One small tip is that when you're searching for the university that you'll put in here, do look for the University of Manchester, not just University of Manchester. I've noticed this on a couple of people's profiles, that they've not selected the official Manchester tag when they've been putting their education in. What that means, it's not dire, because somebody will still see that you're you've attended the University of Manchester. You'll have it there in words in your profile. However, what you won't have, number one, is the logo, and yeah, it's nice to have. But the other thing it will not do is it won't capture your data when it comes to things like the Alumni Tool, which we'll look at in a second. And that means that people maybe stand less chance of finding you if they are using the Alumni Tool to network. So make sure that you've selected the official tag for any of your given educational establishments when you put things into education. And ask yourself, what kind of text you're going to have in there. And obviously mine are quite brief because I'm not leading on my education greatly at the moment. It's more my professional experience. But in here, you can have things like some of your module selections, some of the course material which you really want to show people, but maybe didn't make it into the experience section as being absolutely crucial, the thing they have to see first of all. Some of your extracurriculars can go in here as well. If it's things which you've been engaged with but don't necessarily have somewhere else to put them within the profile, then you can add that as text within your education entries. The skills section, I thoroughly recommend that you populate this as heavily as you can, because there are a few things which, again, that make you more visible. And one of those is your skills section. When recruiters go looking for people, it will often be on the back of a job description. They'll be looking for people who have the skills from that job description. And so if you can be as specific as you can about your skills, now some of them will be transferable. There'll be things like problem solving, there'll be things like people skills, communication in different ways. That's fine, get those in there. There'll be things which sound quite general, but you will see in an awful lot of job descriptions. And I'm thinking here of things like Microsoft Office and some of the packages within that. It is worth putting those into your skills section. It may seem a little bit banal, but you'd be amazed how many times it comes up in a job description. So get those things in here. If there's other software, if there's other technical skills or skills specific to your degree that you feel you hold as well. Now, this could be things like literary criticism. It could be things like field work or lab work, depending on what your discipline is. Now, I would get those in here as well, because once again, the more specific you can be, the better. And if you can name pieces of software, if you can name the tools which you use to tackle some of these the skills, then again, it makes you more searchable, makes you easier to find when people are looking for examples of people like you. There's a section for recommendations. Now, what I would say is treat these like your referees, as you would on your job applications, your internship applications. I would be, again, selective about who you ask for recommendations on LinkedIn, because you want them to reflect well on you. If you have too many of them and they're quite brief, if they're just from teammates from different projects, then it won't necessarily give a very strong recommendation. It won't really ring true. If, however, you've got what you would like to be your professional recommendations from people you've worked with, it just gives a better sense of what you've got to offer professionally. Accomplishments covers quite a lot of different things. Now, in here you've got courses. I've chosen to include things like conferences in here as well. Publications is kind of down to what sort of work you've done. Languages. One small point about languages is I cannot speak all of these languages fluently. Oh no. I can speak a few words in most of these, but I have added that they're elementary proficiency for most of them. So that is, it's a good thing to put in here, but yeah, make sure that you're honest about the level you're at with them. Organizations you're part of, projects that you want to mention. There's plenty that you could say here, but I guess, again, consider when somebody is looking through this how much they will see from the abbreviated version. In my opinion, most people probably spend less time looking through a LinkedIn profile than they do looking through a CV. So you've got to assume that someone's just going to be scanning. And as they scan through, what impression will they get from the entries that you put in this section? And then we get to interests. And interests, for the purposes of LinkedIn, these are the companies which you have followed, and they are the groups which you have joined. So it's not the same as your interest section on your CV, but it does again say a lot about your professional directions. So we'll get onto following and groups in a little bit. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a sec and ask, okay, are there questions which people have about the profile? Are there things which you want to throw out there now before we proceed on to talking about other aspects of LinkedIn? If you want to get any questions in the chat, please do. Otherwise, I shall press on. Okay, so a quick summing up here of what we've talked about: the photo, the headline, the different sections. all things which you can get lined up well before anybody even sees your profile. So then, let's get back to LinkedIn itself and the business of, what do you do when you want to connect to us? And let's just go back to here. There are different ways you can approach this. Now, how you find somebody, first of all, I think is a very good question. Now, I'll get on to things like how you can make that process easier when I talk about the Alumni Tool. But let us just assume for a second that you found somebody. Let us just, okay, I'm just going to take a name. Let us take all the Tom Joneses that are out there and do a quick search here. So what I'm looking for basically is somebody that I don't know. And there's plenty of them here. When you search for somebody, you get this list of search results. Now, you may see somebody here and think, yeah, that is the person I'm looking for. I'll send them a connection request. Off we will go. And you'll come over here and you'll click connect. I would actually give yourself a bit more time. Take a moment to go look at their profile first. And the reason I suggest that is that if you hit connect from here, LinkedIn will assume that you've got all the information you need and that this connection request is very likely to go ahead, and it will simply rattle it off very quickly. And for any of you who've already received connection requests, what will come through at the other end is a quite generic message saying something like, please connect to my profile on LinkedIn. And that's it. And if you use this this means of connecting with people, if you go from a list of results like this, that's all it will do for you. If, however, let's just take somebody off this list. Let's take this Tom Jones, for example. You go into their profile, and from here, if you were to choose to connect, suddenly you're going to get this message. Now, it does say your invitation is on its way. You can add a note to personalize your invitation. I thoroughly recommend that you do this anytime that you can, because people are far more likely to get back to you if they know why you want to connect with them. So every time you get a chance to connect with somebody, please go into their profile itself and then hit connect, because you may be approaching a complete stranger. You might not be. Maybe somebody who knows you. Maybe a classmate, a lecturer. It might be me. Please connect with me, by the way. That is one important point from this session, is that I would like you to add a note to your connection request, as we are discussing now. But I'm not going to insist on it, because my policy is that if I'm sent a connection request by a student from Manchester, I will probably accept that, because part of my role here is to help you facilitate your network. And you can do that by connecting to me. It would be really nice if you add something to it just to remind me, where did we meet? Where did we encounter each other, online as it may be? That approach, I thoroughly recommend you adopt when you approach others as well, because they are going to be not suspicious, but they're going to be potentially time poor. And they're going to get this connection request which says, please can I connect to your LinkedIn profile? And they're immediately going to say, why? Who are you? And if you can mitigate that somewhat by adding within your 300 character limit here, just a little bit about why you're interested, then that will go a very long way towards making people think, yes, I get it. There's a question here about what does the first, second, third thing mean after people's names? Okay, that is a valid question. What that means is they are a first, second, or third degree connection. And a first degree connection is somebody you have actively connected with, or they have connected with you. They have sent a connection request, or you have. And so you are already connected as individuals. A second degree connection is somebody who is connected to one of your first degree connections. So it is one level removed. And a third degree connection is the next level removed after that. So it's kind of the spheres of connection as you move away from your own profile. So first degree, your own connections; second degree, their connections; and third degree, the connections of their connections. So that's the definitions we're working to here. Now, usually you can see quite a lot of data on people who are your second degree connections. You can see most of their profile. So one thing you can do to make your LinkedIn life easier is that you can connect with a few people who have lots of connections. People like me and other careers consultants, people like lecturers in many cases. Some lecturers are not on LinkedIn, they may not use the system, but if they are, they can be good people to connect to because they've probably got several generations of previous students who they're already connected with. And so your second degree connections will suddenly jump up as soon as you connect with a few of these well-connected individuals. So I do recommend it. It's a good way to build your network and be able to see more data on LinkedIn very quickly. Coming back to the actual etiquette of it, and how are you going to reach out to people? Yeah, make sure that you've got the message added here, just to explain your motivations and to give them a sense of, oh, okay, I get it. I sort of understand your reasoning here. They may just say, yeah, sure, let's connect. They may leave it at that. And if you have got specific things you want to ask them, then it's kind of down to you after that point. If you get the response back saying this individual has connected with your profile, that's great. But if there's no further response from them, it's on you to then approach them and say, by the way, thanks very much for connecting. I don't know if you saw, but this is why I was interested in talking to you, and take it from there. So there's that expectation that you will make that next move. Other things to be aware of. The desktop version of LinkedIn, for my money, is the best thing to use. I think the mobile version is fine for just casual browsing, but it doesn't have the functionality. And many of the things, the tools I'm going to talk about, you simply can't use in the same way using the mobile app. Now, one of the big limitations of the mobile app is that when you try to do this very trick, which I've just been describing, when you go into someone's profile and you attempt to connect with them, if you're using the mobile app, it will still pull that move where it will simply dash off the connection request immediately without giving you the option to add the note to it. So under those circumstances, you will find in the top corner, obviously, of somebody's profile, you'll find the menu, the three-dot menu drop-down button. If you tap on that, then you will find an option to personalize your message there. And that is where I recommend you go if you're using the mobile app. If you've got no other option, then that is the way to get that message added to your connection request. Can you set a default note to send automatically? Not that I'm aware of. I suppose, yeah, the current default note is just, can I connect to your LinkedIn profile? I think that is a slightly dangerous approach, because if you have that default and you don't remember to change it, then somebody who receives it may just get the wrong impression. And if it doesn't read personal enough, if it sounds like a default, then there's a reasonable chance that someone's going to look at it and say, I can see that you're not treating me as an individual here, and maybe not come back to you. So be slightly careful with that approach. Now then, let us flick back for a second to here. So the things we've discussed, we've kind of gone through everything on this page at the moment. So get your profile where it wants to be. Make sure that it looks professional before you start sending out your connection requests, and make sure it says the things you want it to. There's a point here about visit their profile first. Some of you may have noticed this, that you will see notifications on LinkedIn saying person X has visited your profile, has viewed your profile. And this is quite a neat feature, because it allows you to go look at someone's profile, and they will see that you've looked at their profile. Here's an interesting thing. You can switch this off if you like. Within the privacy settings, you have the option to change your settings such that you will be an anonymous LinkedIn user when you do this. Now, there can be good times when you want to do it, when you want to maybe go look at people's profiles without them seeing that you're doing so. By and large, I think there's advantages to being visible. So do visit their profile, let them know that you've been there before you then send them the message saying, here's what I'd like to talk to you about. Give them a reason. as mentioned here, give them a reason to link with you. And yeah, in an ideal world, there should be a professional benefit to both parties, through a LinkedIn connection request. That can be hard to pull off, frankly, particularly when you're at the early stages in your career. And sometimes you are simply asking for a favor. So do explain your reason, but the actual thing which you want from them, you may not be able to reciprocate for a while. There's a question here about, are Inmails necessary for high-level connections? Inmail is something you will probably only get access to if you have a premium LinkedIn account. And frankly, I don't think premium LinkedIn is worth it at early stages, because it's a lot of money to put forward simply for being able to message people beyond that personalization message. So I would actually just go with a personalized connection request. I think Inmail, I don't even know how often people use it, frankly, because the personalized connection request is so easy to use. So yeah, I would just go with that approach. Final point there is, don't ask for a face-to-face meeting. I'd leave that for as long as you can, really. Most people connecting with you online, I think these rules apply everywhere online. They're kind of not going to be expecting to meet face-to-face unless there's a good reason. So if they happen to be in Manchester, then fantastic. And obviously there's restrictions on meeting face-to-face at the moment anyway. But that's something you should build up to. I think the things you should be asking for when you first connect with somebody should be the sorts of things which can be communicated by email or just by messaging. It could be asking them questions. It would be getting some insight into their company, their sector. It might then lead into things like a face-to-face meeting if there's some benefit to that. But I would leave that for down the line. I think your initial interactions with the people should be limited to what they can tell you over Messenger. If they're prepared to offer that option to come and meet with them, to see their facilities, whatever it might be, then great, take them up on it. But it's often easy to let them make that move. Okay, that's connecting with etiquette. It's a quick run through the approaches you can take here. Any other questions on this before I press on to our final section for today? Okay. So going back to LinkedIn here, and let's return to where we started. Question here, should you only connect with people from the area or sector you want to work in? Not necessarily. Your network is going to be far-ranging, and you should by all means add your nearest and dearest to start with. If you want to get your network off the ground, then you need to start building it somewhere. Your classmates, as I said, your lecturers, your family, even. This is perfectly valid. When somebody looks at your profile, it's unlikely they're going to browse through your entire list of contacts. And if you've only got a few of them, it's possible they may just take a quick look. But in all likelihood, they're going to be focusing on other parts of your profile. So I don't think it's going to say terrible things about you if your network is quite diverse. It'll be more of an advantage to you if you've got that diverse network, if you've got the potential to see updates from people in a variety of different areas. Then no, I think be as wide-ranging as you can be. Okay. Coming back then to, I guess, other tools which you can use. So we've talked about the profile itself. We've talked about connecting with people, first, second, third degree connections. So then on to what else can you do with this? Because I mentioned before, one of the most common responses I get from people when they're when I talk to them about LinkedIn is that, yeah, I've put together a profile. I've no idea what to do with it. And that is okay. That is almost the default setting for many people on LinkedIn. Now, there are a few tools which I'm going to suggest as ways to explore, ways to see what the network can do for you, and as a means to try and derive some benefit from it. So to that end, the first of these is something called the Alumni Tool. And this, if you go searching for any university, there we go. search for any university, and you will find their LinkedIn page. Nearly all of them have one. And in amongst the options you're given here is alumni. When you click on this, LinkedIn will very handily filter their network, and they will find you everybody that has graduated from the university you've specified. Now, you don't have to search for Manchester. We're going to start here because that is, for my money, the easiest way to use this. I think you can get the most benefit from it. But there are reasons why you might choose to look through the graduates from another university. We'll get to that in a sec. But once it's done this initial filter for Manchester graduates, it then gives you these very interesting filters, a bit of data mining, if you will, on such things as where are they working, which company are they working for, but also things like what sector are they in, and fascinatingly, what did they study? Now, the other filters you've got here are, what's in their skills section and how are you connected to them. So that's these final two are perhaps the least used, but as an initial filter, may I suggest, for example, if you are wondering, what do people do with my degree? Then look no further than this column here. Find your discipline. And if you can't find it in the top 20 here, all you need to do is put in a search term, a keyword search for that subject, and it will rise to the top of this section. And once it is there, all you've got to do is, I'm going to take physics here, click on a subject, and it will add a filter for all of the, in this case, physics graduates from Manchester who have LinkedIn profiles, 10,000 of them, thereabouts. Here's where they work. If you'd like to know, where could my degree take me, then assuming that these individuals, these 10,000 individuals, have kept their LinkedIn profile up to date, here's where they are. Here's where you could be. What else can you get from this? Now, that's everybody who has that profile. Now, if you wanted to, you could add in maybe some filters for the most recent graduates, last 5 years or so. So we've only got nearly 3,000 there. Suddenly this changes. We've got smaller numbers here, but you've got a better snapshot of the places where some of these people are working now. Now let's talk about the geographical places. If you wanted to know what's available, for example, in Manchester, if you want to stay in the area after you graduate, then again, look no further than this. You might not be looking for a graduate level role. You might still be looking for internships, something like this. This can still be a really good insight into that, because you can see where people who have finished their physics degree are now working. You stand a reasonably good chance that those sorts of places may offer you the chance to get some work experience with them as well. So I love this tool, this alumni tool, as a means of exploring your options, as a means of inspiration. But it goes further than that, because once you have applied a few filters, once you have, let's say, looked for the people who are working in Manchester, and even the people who are working very close to Manchester, say within, I don't know, the NHS trust, then you get down to 6 people. If you scroll down, here they are. Here are these 6 people. Now, you may be very interested in working within the NHS, for example, and if you wanted to maybe get a bit more of a sense of what is it like, you could reach out to these people. You could send them a connection request. And the joy of the alumni tool is that you automatically have common ground with everybody that's listed here. So it can be slightly awkward when you're adding that personalized connection request, knowing what to say. I completely accept that. So to that end, why not use this tool to do it? Because you can automatically say to them, hi, I'm a fellow Manchester student, and I found you through the alumni tool. I wondered if I could ask you about the role you have in X. And if they happen to be from the same subject as you, then you've just got further ammunition. So I like this. I think it facilitates the process of finding people, and it provides you with just a different way to explore LinkedIn. I think it's probably one of the best things on here. What else can you use it for? Obviously, there is the geographical filters. There's the subject filters. There's the company filters. That's all nice, interesting stuff. There's good ways to find interesting people. Once you've got a reasonable number of alumni, of profiles to look through, I think one of the very interesting things, if you are trying to get a sense of what could my career trajectory be, how do I get to where they are now, go look at their profile. Like I said, if they happen to be a second degree connection, or even a third degree connection in some cases, you're going to see a certain amount of data within their profile. So go take a look at it. Go see what's in their experience section. Where did they get their experience from? Which companies did they work for? All this good stuff. What kind of internships did they have while they were at Manchester? So play around with this, and I think it will throw up really interesting stuff. Now, I mentioned before, you don't have to use the Manchester Alumni Tool. Now, if you've got friends, if you've got school classmates who are off studying in other universities, and you know there's a great course there, similar to the one that you're on here, and you're thinking, okay, yeah, I'd like to work in that local area. If you're from Birmingham, you want to go return work in Birmingham, and you're wondering, okay, what's available locally? Okay, there's maybe not as many Manchester grads who are going to be in Birmingham. So what do? You find the University of Birmingham, you find Aston University's alumni page, and you go look at their graduates instead. Now, you don't have the common ground with them. It may not be as easy to approach them and ask them questions, but you can still see all of this data. You can still see all of the data on where are they, who do they work for, all that good stuff. So use that to your advantage. Now, likewise, one final use for this is that if you are considering further study, if you are looking at a master's course, something like that, then you can go to that university's page and put in a text search, a keyword search, for the title of the master's course that interests you. Because it's hard to get an objective opinion on a master's course from the university itself. They will simply tell you it's great and you should bring your money. If you want to get a first-hand opinion, then this can help you do that, because you can go find people who have graduated from that master's course and, again, ask them, was it worth it? If they liked it, they'll tell you because they'll want other people to do it. If they didn't like it, they'll tell you because they'll want other people to avoid it. So it's a good way to gather intelligence. Whew. Okay. Two more things I want you to know about tools to use on LinkedIn. One, I've just clicked there on new posts, because here in the news feed, I think is a very undervalued part of LinkedIn. And within this, you can spend a long time scrolling this. Look at things people are saying about their professional life, what they're up to right now. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of people's announcements about what degree classifications they're getting. It's really it's really encouraging. It's really great to see people adding this information. Progressing in this way, and depending on what you want to get from the news feed, I think will dictate a little bit who you connect with, and also the groups that you join, the companies that you follow, because all of those things will bring more data into your news feed. Your news feed is made up of the updates that people post. It's made up of the company updates that different companies provide on what are they doing right now. There's the events they're running, their achievements, all this sort of thing. So there is potentially a lot of information that streams into this news feed, and I don't make enough time for it. I find that I generally don't spend enough time looking at this on any given day, and every time I go into it, I tend to find fascinating things, articles, industry insights, things like this. So please make sure that you do spend a bit of time looking at this. If you're going to use LinkedIn effectively, when you first log into it, don't just skip past this page. Actually scroll through, see what the updates are, see what's going on out there. And ideally, if you want to become active, if you want to get noticed on LinkedIn, start commenting, start looking for interesting stuff, start sharing stuff. It may seem daunting, the idea that you could start a post here and start adding an update about what are you doing right now, what's your professional life up to. That might seem a bit much, and if it does, what I'd suggest is share somebody else's instead. Find an interesting article and share it, and tell people that you find it interesting. Maybe tell them why. It's an easy, gentle first step into being active on this social media network. So that's a quick, easy way to approach the news feed. And your posts can become more elaborate as you become more confident in it. I received a message the other day from somebody who'd attended a LinkedIn workshop, and it had taken them a year to get used to the process of posting and getting confident with it. So don't feel like you've got to be good at this overnight. So it will take time, but eventually it just gives you another string to your bow, another indication of your professional interests. So yeah, please do use this, but work your way up gently. Final thoughts then on other ways you can leverage the network. Groups. Whenever you look for a company, let's take these folks I was looking at earlier. You'll notice that you've got the option to follow them. You may not necessarily have an option to join their groups as such. That might be limited to their employees. However, you can follow the company, and by doing so, you will get their updates in your newsfeed. So once you followed them, it just provides you with a means to just be more aware, to literally have their information coming straight to you. They will notice this as well. They will have information on who is following them. So this just allows you to add more interests to that section in your profile. The groups that you join will also start sending updates to your newsfeed as well. So once you've done these things, it just provides you with a way to expand your horizons within LinkedIn and just get a greater sense of what's available, and also give you more things to comment on, give you more ways to engage with people. I think we've covered everything I wanted to. So in terms of what's out there, we've touched upon the Alumni Tool, what it can do for you, the news feed, liking, commenting on other people's things, and making time for it, most of all. And groups and following companies and individuals. You can follow individuals. Generally, when you connect with somebody, you automatically follow them. If you find you're getting too much, you can unfollow them as well. It's one of the options available to you. So one final thought on groups is that it does provide you with more common ground with people. You won't automatically have them as a first degree connection, your fellow group members, but it's a good reason to maybe reach out to them to say, hi, I noticed you're also a member of this group. Could I talk to you about, again, something related to it? Whew. Folks, that's everything I had for you for today. It's a lot to cover. We've managed to do it in just under an hour. What I would say is, if you want to discuss any of this stuff, well, two thoughts. Number one, as I said, please send me a connection request, because if you're just getting started, it'll be a good boost for your network. If you're already underway, it'll still be a good boost to your network. It'll just provide you with more versatility on LinkedIn. And the other thing is, if you want to discuss your LinkedIn use and your profile, get someone to look it over, then that's what we do at Careers. We provide feedback on how your profile looks. So if you want to book an appointment, then again, just head to the website, and then there is a tab over towards the right-hand side for help and advice that will let you know where to look for where to book appointments. I'm going to finish there, but I am going to hand over first of all to Lewis, who is going to, I believe, just fill you in on other stuff which is going on, other information you may need to know regarding the SEI series. Lewis, if you're around, now would be a good time to unmute and let us know what's on your mind.
Brilliant. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning, and thanks, Ben, for running that webinar. It's really, really informative. So just very quickly, I know we're just over the hour, but just like to remind you guys about the other sessions that we've got coming up. So the next session we've got is actually on Monday the 20th. So that's Monday after the weekend coming, and that's at 11 o'clock till 12 o'clock. And that's on performing better in psychometric tests, so the kind of tests that a lot of employers use as part of their application process and normally be online. So these are great things to have awareness of if you're thinking about applying for roles after you graduate. I'd just like to encourage you as well to have a look on the Blackboard space, where we'll put a recording of this and any other resources to go with the session, and we'll continue to do that for all the sessions as well. So yeah, thanks for joining us.
Okay, before I close the session, are there any other questions? Because as soon as I do hit stop, I'm afraid that's it. We will be there won't be any opportunity to follow up unless you book an appointment. So, if anybody's got other things on their minds as to what else can we, what other queries, other stuff which you feel needs a bit more detail, then please get it in now. I'll just wait for a moment. By all means, just type a quick yes in case you do have something and it's taking a while to type it all up. I think we may be done. Don't seem to be any more questions. You're very welcome. But somebody just there saying thanks very much for running the session. So, yep, you're very welcome. And like I say, please do follow up on this. Do please reach out should you wish. But otherwise, thank you very much for coming along today. And I wish you all the very best for the future.